back to the Berg Podcast. Thanks for joining us today. With me today is Ford.
Hey, how's it going?
And Dan.
Hey, everybody.
And we are back to talking about the book. And this week we're talking about the next chapter, which is goes back into the personal side of the book, and talking about building your life team. And he says, what's he say? Something
Align and
prune. Yeah, align and prune. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of talk about who you surround yourself with, personally, and then professionally to some extent as well. As he kind of goes through, it was a little shorter of a chapter than the others, right?
It was a little shorter, and then he also talks about your time, right? It's not just the people; it's your time and how you spend the time with the people. And
yes, yeah.
There's an interesting piece of it.
I think because there wasn't a lot of examples in this one, it was short, but it seemed to pack just as much punch as some of the other ones. It wasn't like 32 examples of how something happened or something did from somewhere else. It was kind of like, here's the meat and potatoes of it, move on.
Do you think, I couldn't help but thinking about this while I was reading it. Do you think his friends read the book and were like,
what circle am I?
I only get a card once a year. Which group am I in?
Yeah, I do think there's some risk in that, in doing that with the book. He says he talks to some people like monthly or quarterly or whatever the math was.
Yeah.
And so like all of a sudden you'd be like, wait a second. I thought we were,
I thought we were buddies. Apparently I got pruned.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. I'm not part
I think it's only if you're one of those people that got pushed from the circle to the other circle. But like, you know what I mean? Because we all have different groups of friends, and there's groups that you might see once a year, twice a year. And it's not, if you were a daily or weekly conversation and then all of a sudden you got dropped, that would be a different thing. But if in general, like you never had more than that, I don't know that it would be as much of a,
That's fair.
Yeah, I think it's that second, third group is where you'd feel put out a little.
You start to feel the delineation a little bit.
You'd be like, wait a minute, I thought, because you could sort of like, let's say you talk to somebody quarterly.
Sure.
Versus once a year, you could just think the person got busy. You know what I mean? But the book says he doesn't. It really focuses on that to say it's not that he got busy. He has elected to not engage with you.
Yeah. He goes back to that saying, he used it a couple chapters ago, and I forget.
Energy?
No, the gain or loss. Every
interaction
is that you like gain
Mitt
or
Romney.
lose, right? Is that who it was? Mitt Romney?
Mitt Romney.
Yeah. And he kind of talks about that here, like, who are you surrounding yourself with? Yep. What are you gaining? What are you losing? And it can be reciprocal, right? Like you can give to relationships, but it shouldn't
that's
only
like the
be
strongest
giving.
Ones,
Shouldn't
right?
only be giving. So,
I would probably think that like that your most inner circle, that's the way it is. You probably give as much as you get, it's equal, which is why you would engage so much with those people, as you get as much out of any conversation as you do put into any conversation, and you both feel that.
Yeah.
So it creates a situation where you would, trust them and interact with them more.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder too, like as I was reading it, this book was written, pre-social media.
Oh, sure.
Not like, it was around, but it wasn't what it is today as far as that plethora of information that just ruins actual interaction and not relationship. Like, doesn't ruin them as far as like, I'm not going to talk to that person anymore, but like, why would I call up John Doe if I know everything he's done every day for the past 3 weeks? You know what I mean? Like, because I'm not on it, so I can't say, but I knew when I was on it, like, the people, if you scrolled through, like you call somebody up, you don't have anything new to talk about because you basically, unless you're saying I'm creeping on you, I've seen all your posts. Like, there is nothing interesting to talk about because basically it's all been blasted out there if that is the way that you choose to live your life. Well,
and I want to get back to that, but I want to focus on a really interesting part for me was when he talked about he leaves a voicemail. Yeah. Right at the end of that chapter, he talks about that he would call and leave a voicemail, and that he started doing it, that he would have a voicemail that he would create on Fridays, once a week, every day at the same time. As soon as I read it, I was like, it's pre-podcast. It's a podcast. Like, podcast didn't exist, but that's what he was doing, right? He was creating a way that everyone could hear his voice and know how he was feeling. Like, he literally described what became a podcast, and the purpose that we started this for. And I thought that was really interesting. And then he references that you can't get that same thing from a message or a social media, right? And social media also fixed that problem because it went to be, it's all now short videos, so you're trying to get a message across where people can hear you and see you interact. It's not the same. Having said that, I think that the funny part is with my little bit of interaction with social media currently, I feel like we've gone away from knowing what everybody's doing. Like the three of us could be friends on social media and I have no idea what you're doing because social media now is filled. I feel like it's just become like a giant advertisement. Like it's just the giant thing showing you all the things that the algorithm says you should like that in some way generates revenue for someone. Yeah. Like it's gone away from what the original, like Facebook, MySpace, those original things which were meant to allow like you and I and Ford to interact when we weren't in the same place.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Or like the original Twitter, like where you're
140 characters.
Right. And you had something to say. And now it's just a platform for advertising, whether it be your beliefs or what you're selling. It's like the modern day Yellow Pages.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing that for me, that I use this saying a lot and it does have some callousness to it, but it's a reality. Not my monkey, not my circus. And because you are in the know of so much information nowadays that can just fill up your time, you have to really pick and choose. If someone's in need, that's not what I'm talking about. But if someone's having some drama in their life and it doesn't really affect you, there is no need to be involved in it. And we've kind of got into this like group thing where everybody is involved in everybody else's everything.
Yeah.
And that seems to be kind of what he's getting at a little bit there with some of this stuff. The interesting thing that he talks about like draining versus gaining and stuff like that with like people. But, the funny part was like, well, you can't do this with family. This is only for outside of family. Family, you have to do it no matter what.
That's rough.
But sometimes you're like, wait a second. If I use this thing on my family, that'd be a whole different conversation.
You don't want to know who gets moved from in and out. It's
Which
better.
Pieces stay close.
I think Ford, I think Ford would move everyone to like a secondary circle.
Okay.
Because he would it would be non-combative, but non-committal.
Okay.
And make sure that no group, like if you were in this certain group, he would make sure to not contact anybody any more times than any other people.
Yeah.
And if he happened to talk to you more, you would have to know that like, hey, you're getting more of interaction with me. If you share this with anyone, then you're going to get less interaction. So because I'm not getting into this with
We've talked about this in the past. I think Ford's better at this than most people I know. And not specifically about like segmenting his groups, but like having folks that are close and then having sort of like circles of influence, like people that he likes interacting with, but doesn't need to see them or talk to them on an everyday basis. And then like having sort of the larger fringe interactions that he maintains the relationship with, that he likes to check in casually a few times a year, maybe less. It's like an old salesman thing to some extent, right? This is something like when I was learning how to like relationship manage very early in my career, and you do this. I would do things to try and like be triggers for me or like help me remember people or their circumstances, and I'd make little notes in my phone. So in my contacts, I'd be like, met Ron Bressler, and Ron Bressler's kids are Courtney and Morgan, and and like little things like that would kind of just be like reminders for when I get to interact with him next. Now, Ron was my neighbor, so that was an easy example.
So that was an early one.
That was an early one.
That wouldn't even write down at that point because there probably wasn't anything to write it down.
Yeah, we used to hang out. But
in the past, when I've shared contacts with you guys, like before they let you pick what category,
you share, what you don't share.
Yeah, there was probably some kind of like,
yeah,
wife's name is this or kid's name is this or whatever, just to try and help with that.
And that's where I was going. I know I've gotten some stuff from you where you're like, it's like a name and like I wouldn't say a bio by any means, right, but like some snippets of things that like you thought were pertinent to maintaining that relationship or knowing about that relationship. And I'm sure like depending on how close that they were to one of those circles, there was more or less information. The people a little further away, maybe a couple more things on the list so that you had a few more reminders about those interactions. People who were close, I'm sure there's very little in their contact. It's
in between your ears.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I was wondering where you were going because I was like, I don't know. If Brian goes with the direction you were starting, I was like, I feel like it'd be the opposite. The people you're close to, I don't need any information.
Yeah,
I got
exactly
it. I thought you were going the other way. I was like, no. But
no. Exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, you already hold it closely. You don't need it.
But I think that like the tough part is like I have, for a while, I was trying to actually set reminders on my calendars to touch base with some people that like just the life just got in the way. And then I just stopped doing that because it felt forced, right? It was just like, all right, I'm going to call this person once every quarter. So on March 12th, it's going to pop up that I need to call Johnny. And it's like, right. I was like, okay, if I don't have a need to call that person, I'm just not like, I'm not good at like forcing that through. So it's like, okay, you know, and the other part is always like keep a score in the back of your head. Like you always want to be like helping somebody else. You don't want to be needing help. And so you're always like trying to make sure that you're always providing, you know, more value than you are taking from something. So when you do actually have to call someone, you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
I'm on the wrong side of that ledger. I got to get back on the right side of the ledger somehow, quickly as possible.
Stop borrowing, start giving.
Yes.
Interesting.
But I think that the reality is that like there was something else in there about doing too much, you know, whatever, the jack of all trades, master of none was kind of a little bit in there too, as far as like, you know, he cut back on maybe the people he was donating to and tried to really pour himself into a smaller group versus just trying to be everything for all people.
Yeah. And I think that's like a fair place to like the groups were interesting to me. So it's really 3 circles or 3 groups of interactions, right? Like the closest of groups is probably like 5 to 10 people, right? You see them regularly, you spend time with them regularly, you talk to them regularly, whatever it is. They're the people you call when you need to vent. They call you if they need to get something off their chest. Like, you know, that's probably the easiest group for people to pick out and say like, oh, I know who those folks are. And for some it's bigger, some it's smaller. But like the next 2 groups I thought were kind of where it gets a little weird. Like for me at least, like the groups that you see periodically, right? But still regularly enough that you've got a relationship with. And then the other group is like the people that you like keep in touch with, so to speak, or that's how he sort of set it up, right? Once or twice a year, he sends them a card for Christmas, or he, you know, and that's the biggest of the groups. Like what do you say, like 400 or 500 people in that group? He just tries to make sure he like has some interaction with. And for me, I was kind of like, I get the point of it. I understand what he's trying to say. But I've never been like make sure I send you a Christmas card kind of guy. Like I know that's big for some families, and for ours, it's not. So if you don't get a Christmas card from me, it's not because you're not on the list.
No,
there is no list. How about that?
I feel better now.
There isn't a list. Like we don't do like, we did family Christmas cards one year, and the kids were a little younger. I think it was just the 1 year, and it was hilarious. It was like, we had just gone to Disney for the first and only time, Disney World. And
is everybody wearing ears?
No. So at some point, like we, you know, first and only time. So we did everything. We did all like, I bought like the picture package and like all this stuff. Right. And at some point it became a little bit of a game. The kids are younger where like, no, it didn't matter what ride we're on. I was going to act like the most excited person in the park. Like every picture, like hands up, big eyes, big face, you know,
it's not just the water flume where you went splash.
I'm just having a great time. And so Allie picked out like all these pictures of me sitting next to people who were behaving very normally, like having the best time of my life, at least on camera. And, that's the only year we send out Christmas cards.
We send them out. You guys send them out. I should say Tamara does a great job of sending out Christmas cards,
and we love getting them.
But yeah. Don't get me started on that.
Yeah, I'm not. That's why.
I'm just going to be quiet real quick here.
Be quiet. Tamara does a great job. Erin wants to, and we do usually, but usually we're like terrible timing with taking pictures, and she's like, "We got to get a picture," and every picture would be in a soccer uniform or at the beach. So like, and then all of a sudden it's like Christmas Eve, and she's like, "I didn't send out the card," and she's in a panic. I'm like, this is more stressful than it has to be. Like, we don't have to send out the cards, but people feel like they're obligated to. She feels like she's obligated to. So we do that, but I'm also like you. I feel like I can, when I'm like honest with myself, I'm too like operationally driven to say like I'm going to reach out just because I haven't touched space with you in a year. Like I will reach out to you if I have something to tell you, or there's something that I want to talk about, or you know what I mean. And right. You can feel free to do the same. And I guess that still develops where those circles are, but I like don't go out of my way. And it's something Ford and I have talked about that, like with certain things, I have to do a better job of saying, like, I'm going to make sure I touch base with this person, because he's like, "Hey, have you talked to this guy?" And I'm like, "No, I haven't." And he's like, "Well, you should touch base with him." And I'm like, "All right, I'll touch base with him." But I like really didn't. I sort of in Ford's ledger, I didn't have anything to say except like a lot of times it'll be like a GC, a developer, owner. I'm like, sure. I mean, the only thing I'm going to do is just call him and say like, "Hey, do you have any work?" Like, I'm not going to say that, but effectively, because they're not a close enough circle where I'd be interacting with them that it would naturally occur. So I have to go out of my way. And that's the point that he's making in the book from a personal or the last chapter in your professional life, is if you do that, it makes the call more regular,
But I have a question for you, because this gentleman, I'm assuming, is late 50s, early 60s. He says he's a empty nester, right? Like, so, we're all in a much more situational life. You with coaching, you with soccer, you know what I mean? Like we're moving through groups of people. Like if we were having this conversation 20 years from now, all of us,
it'd probably be very different.
Yeah, we already been through all those situations where we were put with people that we did or didn't care for, or whatever the scenario was. And by then we could have cherry picked out the group of people that we would want to continue having in those different circles or rings or whatever you want to call them.
That's a great point. Because I was thinking
right now, like we're all put in situations where the group of people really aren't our choice. There is certain
some
group,
level. Yeah, you're totally right. Yeah.
And so basically then we're trying to make the best of whatever that current situation is. Like you just went away with the insurance thing, right?
Yeah,
and some people there, you're friends with, some of them, during that event, some of them maybe reach out, work related thing, but you wouldn't have actively going out and found that particular group of people because they were put there in a unique way.
Is there like an Adam Rupp in that group? You know what I mean? Is there your Midwest mole buddy there? That's putting you on the spot. Someone might listen to this.
I don't think there's an Adam Rupp. No, okay. Adam and I
know you're like thick as thieves.
Well, there was that guy, but he's only stayed.
That's a great example because
I was just about to say that Adam and I, that's a great example because Adam and I talk maybe quarterly.
Right, so that puts him in that second circle, right? Which makes
and he's definitely a guy that like I would call or I think would like reach out, to talk if something's going on, but it's not like a regular monthly whatever.
I mean, with Adam, I would argue, it's so situational because I would argue if Midwest Mole was based out of Southeast PA, I think you and Adam would probably see each other once a month.
Yeah, that's possible.
Like I think you'd make an effort. Like the two of you get along, you interact. You know what I mean. So
sure, yeah.
It's so situational. Ford brought up a really strong point though that the book didn't, which is where you are in your life.
Yeah.
Because all of us for different reasons, like you said, me with soccer, like I have to interact in all these groups, and I mean a funny thing comes to mind of how you start to know these people, and you interact in them, and you're working in this environment, but you're not like the girls say, I say acquaintances, but these aren't even acquaintances. These are just people that are in a circle that you're in that you may develop a relationship over time with or choose to. And on Sunday, I think it was on Sunday, I'm standing there watching one game and neither game for my girls, neither of the semifinals has started. And a lady walks over and she's really nice. And that's an FC Delco shirt on. And she says, we're warming up down here. Do you want me to walk Nora down for you so you can watch the game? And I was like, I looked at her and she was like, do you know where Grayson is? And I was like, no, I don't know where Grayson is right now. I don't think she's here yet. It was a boys tournament. So it's the only two girls. So we're not on the team. right? So she knows Nora, she knows Grayson. And I was like, okay, yeah, you just take Nora. I'm going to watch the game. And she walked away, and I said, I don't know who that lady is. Aaron doesn't listen to the podcast, so I'm safe here. Like, right? But I was like, so I walked down there and I was like, my wife would be really mad right now because I just let you walk away with my kid. I said, no, you had all the pertinent information that you needed. And it's that circle. That's what made me think of it. She had moved into a tighter circle because we're at a soccer tournament. You have the right shirt. And you knew the people, like you knew there was a game, you knew they'd be warming up, and you knew her and another girl's name.
This is how like every predator sets up the prey.
It is. I literally, Brian, I was like worried after I did it. I realized
the right
I was
uniform. They know the right names.
Right?
Oh,
and it was for a second I was like genuinely scared. Like quickly walked. I was like, where is Nora right now?
Sure.
You know what I mean? And because I realized like I had made a decision, but it made me think of the circles. Like she had moved out of some circle that is not even the third circle.
Yeah.
And skipped right over the third to the second because she gave me information which inferred she was in my group of people, but she was not.
Do you think that is part of your nature? And we've talked about this a lot on the podcast, I think, but like needing just the right amount of information to make a decision.
Just the right amount.
Yeah. Because me, I would have been like, how do I know you? You know, right.
Yeah, it's exactly that. I realized it. And like, I was like, okay, I got to manage this when I'm at these things because I don't, in our normal environment, if someone walks up, I would know them because they're in the group.
Right.
But I literally let them skip 2 stages and let them walk away with my kid and didn't know where they were going. I was scared for a minute. I don't get scared often, but I was worried. Yeah. I was like, I don't know if I was more worried about losing Nora or having to call Erin and tell her that I lost Nora. Because that's, I've been told like if a kid doesn't come back, neither do you.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I mean, I can come back, but she's just going to kill me. So
sure. Yeah, it's over. It's over anyways.
It's over anyways. But and then I have one other thing. You were talking about the Disney thing, and completely off topic of the chapter as always. But Charlotte's supposed to go to Orlando in July for soccer, of course. And I informed her that we can go, but we are not going to any theme parks. And you should have seen the response from everybody, including my extended family. They're like, hold on, you're going to take her to Orlando, stay adjacent to SeaWorld for 4 days, and you are not going to let her go to the parks. So I was like, we're going for a soccer tournament. And they're like, right, but you're at the parks. And I was like, no, I understand that, but we never went to Disney World. We're not going to Disney World. The girls have never been to Disney. I'm not taking Charlotte to Disney World. I was like, maybe I'll let her like see the whales from a distance or something. Like maybe she can see them from the hotels.
Right? He'll be looping the park, like trying to get a view.
Like the opposite.
The
hotel's like right there. Like
he's like, can I have a high room, please? And binoculars.
It was like the complete opposite of you. When you were like, I was animated and I wanted to be engaged. I'm like, yeah, we're not even going. No.
Yeah. Well, it was like my whole family was there.
I understand. Well, and that's part of my thing is if they were all going, I wouldn't do it. But I'm like not taking Charlotte. She said Mara went to Spain, and I was like, okay, that's completely different.
A few years ago, Aiden and I were on a recruiting visit somewhere, and we were kind of bouncing between Tampa and Orlando in that area, and we had an extra day, not even like a whole day. And so I was on the phone with Allie. I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll see if there's this is how naive I am. I have
half-day pass.
Yes, thank you. I was like, maybe there's like a half-day pass or something for Disney or SeaWorld.
There is. It's just full price.
Yeah. You can go for as many hours as you want for the full price, which is ridiculous. More ridiculous than I remembered. And she's like, what? You can't do that. Like, we're all at home. The other kids aren't with you. And I'm like, what? We're right here. Like, we need something to do. We're just not going to just sit in the hotel room. And she's like, oh, I don't know.
I don't know. See, that was my fear.
So,
but but Ford's point about where we are in our lives, it really, I hadn't thought about it that way, but I was trying to like wrangle how I build these circles. Cause I felt like a Venn diagram. Like I have like 5 different sets of circles. Like, you have like Mara's group of people with soccer and Charlotte's and Nora's, and then separate secondary teams they play on. And then actual people that I interact with, and then school. And I'm like, how about, like for me in my mind, it's not a circle. Ford and I always say about a web. It's like a web, and almost, the thing that's become popular where the size of the word in the graphic says how many times it occurs.
I forget what that's called, but yeah, I know what you mean.
That's what I felt like in my head, but with people that and it wouldn't be a circle per se, because nobody had You know what I mean? Because they were too unrelated. That the end group could actually end up being like one person that I talked to for this purpose about these topics, you know, and that's what would make up that secondary circle. Because I feel like the inner circle is pretty easy to pick. You know what I mean? Like, you know who you talk to when you need to talk, or who calls you when they need to talk, and who, you know what I mean? A person that they could call you at any point, at any time for anything, and you would help them. You know what I mean? Like all the memes, like the person you call and you say, I need your help to get rid of a body. And they're like, okay, which car should we take? You know what I mean? Like, they don't ask any questions. Right. So I think that's easy, but that second circle is, for me, was more tricky to say, like, who's in that group without it becoming ridiculously large of people that I don't actually communicate with that often. I just cross paths with often.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was interesting for sure.
I was at something the other day, and it was like, you know, just holding back because it was a group of people that I didn't know, didn't really want to know them either, but just kind of watching and seeing how, like, you know, there's the leader of the pack. There's like, you just like identifying the people in that group, you know, who's like telling everybody what to do, who is more worried about what their hair looks like than, you know, the content of the group. You know, you're watching and just seeing what the scenario is. And like, you know, couple people try and come up and engage. You just do the hi, how you doing, and keep it moving type of scenario. But it was just kind of funny to watch the group like interact and kind of all fall into some form of a line, I guess you would say. I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting here. I'm gonna keep it moving out of this.
Were they all united by something, and that
their
you
children
happen to be a part of? Okay,
children.
Okay. Kids
all of our children were together, and it was just like
kids will do it.
Yeah, okay, interesting here.
You kind of get adopted into groups as your kids like go in and out of things, especially in sports. I mean, it's fun because as the kids have played club sports, you know, we've gone in and out of circles, and you interact with some more than you interact with others, like you're suggesting. And our latest circle is Aiden playing college lacrosse, and like, it's a little different, right? Like club sports, the environment is like cordial, but everyone's there because they're trying to like get to something, typically. But in college sports, like that competitiveness still exists, but not amongst the parent group, really. It's like, look, we're here for a reason. And it's because our kids have been kind of pulled into this family. And like, it's a similar situation. You still kind of like have the wide variety of folks, and some will become firsts and some will become thirds, and they'll be the in-betweeners. But it is different environment.
I also wonder too, like, this is, you know, interesting, but like, the sporting world compared to when we played sports.
There's no comparison.
Right. Well, but I mean, I'm thinking for parent base.
Buckle up.
Yeah.
When we were kids, you played on Tuesdays and Thursday nights or whatever it was.
Sure.
You played during the game and you went home. But now you guys are at tournaments. And so the amount of useless conversations just because you're killing time that goes on, that you might get to know someone better than you even intended to. Doesn't mean what circle they're going to be in, but I just mean like the amount of conversation, because you're basically stuck in not a room, but a controlled space for 36, 48 hours, weekend after weekend. It creates a different vibe in there than you would in like, okay, see him for 2 hours on a Tuesday night, wave, say hi, goodbye, and you move on.
Well, what's funny was like, especially in club sports, was like the glimpses you get into other people's like socio and economic like groupings, right? Like, and like we were always kind of on the fringes of those, like just based on the places we went and all of that. But there's, you know, you tend to like gravitate towards the folks who are the most like you. I think the thing that is most interesting about the sports is the modern day social groups, outside of like, obviously you could be in country clubs, you can be in other things, but the level of engagement, if you really are going to play top level travel anything, the time commitment, the money commitment, you're there so much. Like, I mean, I think on Ford's best day of his like dream life, I don't know that he could be golfing as much as we would be at you know what I mean? Like if when you were at Mesa, right? Like
You're going to play Mesa. You're probably going to have 3 days a week practice potentially. You probably better train one day with someone who they know who it is. So now you're at 4. You haven't played a game yet. You know what I mean? Like you can be at 5 or 6 days. That's what starts to happen to us of these groups, and what the micro worlds that occurred. And that's what sort of gave me pause with this chapter, because in the fall of especially a meaningful year for Charlotte right now, she will go ECNL or ECRL. She doesn't make it, which is the top tier where you start to play nationally at her age, at U12 to U11 to U12. So in the fall, we were all best friends. In the winter, everything's great. And still there's these dynamics like, of who you hang out with, who you don't, who you talk to, who you don't. And then January comes and they schedule tryouts. And now we're still all friends, but people start to worry and they start to talk, and you know what I mean? And watching the dynamics, when you were saying about the dynamics, watching the dynamics of that is scary, because these people are, you've spent a lot of money and you like have this idea, and it's just, I've said it to people, anybody will listen. We have ruined kids sports. We have just ruined, it's amazing. You're producing better athletes at a younger age if they don't burn out, but we have really made it difficult. It's a high stress environment. There's a whole business model now specifically geared towards sports psychology for youth, because you're at risk of burning the kids out because there's so much pressure on them.
Well, two other things that were in this would actually kind of tie together. One was about the, nothing better than a wife to respect her husband and a husband to love his wife or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. But I also wonder, like, if there's someone that needs, getting to the pruning side of this, could you actually, some people can't.
You better watch it. I'd be like, Ford wants to get a big pruner.
No, but no, I probably
that's a wood chipper.
I probably some people have pruned too tight, but no, but would it actually be someone else maybe speaking into your life because you're so in that situation that you're not realizing that person is actually dragging you down, or you know what I mean? Because you're you're dealing with it, but maybe your spouse or someone goes like, hey, like Johnny over here, like every time he calls you, like you answer the phone for him, but like by the end of the call, you're miserable. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you just don't notice that the person isn't helping you grow. You almost need like a third party to be hey, you know what? That person right there, maybe they go to voicemail every third time.
Well, the crazy thing is in the chapter, the other chapter where it talks about just the best way to make money is to stop doing what loses money. And it's so obvious. And yet so many times you do it, and I feel like the same thing is true. Like if you actually step back, who it is that should be pruned. The question is, are you willing to do the work to prune it? You know what I mean? Like pruning isn't easy. Like, it's like weeding, use whatever example you want. Like none of it's easy.
Sure.
But if done, it's necessary. If you don't do it, there's a repercussion. And if you do, there could be a benefit, but you have to decide consciously to do it. And then you have to do it. Yeah. Because I don't think it's, I'm pretty sure we're not going to do it, but I'm pretty sure each of us could say one person that if we didn't interact with them, things would be easier for us. You know what I mean? And we know that. And yet how many times over the next year will we interact with that person, either because we feel like it's necessary situationally or because it's more convenient than the work it would take to move on from it. And you're just like, okay, I'll stand there and say nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like what you were saying there, Ford, about like that someone else, like a wife or a husband, speaking into like a third party's view of how that relationship. So I joke with Allie a lot that like, I don't know, she doesn't let me have friends, but the truth is that she was really smart about speaking into my life about some of the folks who had influence at times when they probably shouldn't have. So
it seems to be always that a lot. I guess if you probably polled most of our spouses, they would think most of our friends might not be of the appropriate, because we just keep the friends close to you that you've known for a long time or whatever the scenario is. But there is a reality too that, and I think that is, again, back to the seasons of life. There's different times. I have a buddy and he had a friend. They worked together and they were like thick as thieves, but like every time they would go out together, usually by the end of the evening, like it just wasn't a good spot. And so after a while, like, and it was funny because from a guy's perspective, like your missus told you that you can't hang out with someone? Like, what the heck? But then, like, you know, if you look at it, okay, she was dealing with him being, you know, in less than best scenario every time that person was around. Well, it's a pretty simple equation that, like, that person was not benefiting his life long term.
Sure. Yeah.
And so,
sometimes it takes that
needed to be pruned.
That person needed to be pruned off the list. Yeah. When you're out of town and when you go visit them or something and that person was there, it was always fun because that person was a barrel of fun, but there was just a other side to it that wasn't as valuable for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it is an interesting thing because, like, you know, when you talk about maybe the pruning or something from a business perspective, there is a third element, which is that a business is made to make money and be successful. But then when you look at it on a personal level, that's a whole different thing because with personal relationship, there is no ulterior motive of sorts, right? There's no like, well, if it's not making, you know, the company better, it's hurting the company, whatever. With a personal relationship, that isn't there, but there is still that making yourself better and the personal go forward plan and stuff like that. So it still matters, but there's not that thing that you can kind of lean on and be like, well, this is why I'm doing it because it's not helping, you know, the company. So it makes it a little bit more challenging to kind of pick through the situation a little easier.
Yeah.
When I wondered, like, Brian is the most intentional of the three of us. Agreed?
Definitely.
Okay. Would you make a personal go forward plan? Right? Like when he said it, and remember at the end, and I liked his thing about his dad at the end when he hit on the mentor, right, with his dad. I thought there was a lot of really interesting information that sort of you see where he came from, you know, like both professionally and personally, how he got to be how he was. But when he said about that you run each decision through this go forward plan before you decide if you will commit your time. He was talking about time specifically. And in my head, I immediately thought it would take so much time that in my desire to just make quick decisions, I'll just make a decision based on, you know, the information I have. But I wondered, you know, like, what would that really look like? Like, how simplistic would that go forward personal plan have to be for me that I could actually, you know, test it against those rules? And then do I do it already, right? Like, is there already some mechanism that's similar to that I'm just, they're formalizing it and make it more formal than I would like for me, but that I actually do it? You know, so, I mean, what do you think that would look like for you? Like, do you think you do that?
I don't think I do it. No. Could I see the value in it? For sure. I don't know. We talked about this, like, I think when we were going through that chapter about like taking the time to sort of pick up your head based on circumstantially where we're at in life and like work on the plan instead of in the plan, or, you know, on the business or on the life or whatever instead of in the life. And, yeah, I've never done it, but I do think I for sure see the value in doing it. And I think that, I really enjoy the idea in a lot of situations of like like policy driven governance, right? And like personally, I think that can mean different things. It certainly means different things on a board or in a business, but like sort of kind of giving yourself the framework and then the freedom to operate inside the framework. And that's kind of what we're talking about, like figuring out the direction, and then the journey or the path doesn't have to be as rigid sometimes. And I think we try and do that.
Yeah,
I think though that like this is like the core values for a business. Like they're there if you know them and they're inside. Like the decision, like you're not going to have like a sit there and write a sheet out, but like literally it's already kind of honing in that decision with or you're not like going to sit there and like, okay, let me take 10 minutes and like run through this. All of those synapses are firing off and you're just able to, you know, it's interesting. Some people are very grounded in maybe what they were raised in, you know, and those hold true to them. Some people find their own as they move through life to find like what are their core, like what they're made of type scenario. Yeah. And so it's interesting to see. And some people change theirs because they realize that maybe the values that they had given to them weren't what they have. And so, you know, they as people have a little more fluidity because they're kind of still adapting their core values versus if it's, if you're fine with maybe the ones that were input into early on, there isn't as much, time put into it. You're just like, yep, I accept these. I'm willing to work within these. I'm just going to keep it rolling.
Yeah. And being like, are you open to the idea that the way isn't always the only way, or maybe not even the best way? Which, well,
and for me, I think that even if you had a set of beliefs, and I feel like Ford has a pretty strong set of beliefs and has, Tom and Carol instilled a set of beliefs, and Ford has built a lot of things personally and professionally out of those beliefs. Mm-hmm. But I think still, when you get married and you have kids, like everybody reevaluates, you know what I mean, at that point, and you look at it because you can't really understand the decision-making processes. And even if all it does is reorder your priorities or reorder the basis on which those same priorities are being governed, I think kids change that. I think like almost everybody, when they have kids, look at those values and say like, okay, because it changes. Like you know what I mean? I feel like what changes is, your priorities are set to do the best you can, the greater good, even if it's the best of priorities, but also for you. And when you have kids, all of a sudden, many times it stops being about you, right? Mm-hmm. Like it starts to be, you have to learn to make time for yourself, almost like this in the pruning sense. Like you have to prune things so that there's time for you to be a person, but your focus becomes on delivering those values to your kids so that your kids can carry them on and deliver the values and be the good people you want them to be. Yeah. So I think having kids is the most natural time that you reevaluate those values.
Yeah. That's probably a safe place to wrap it up. I feel like we can get real deep into our inner thoughts here if we keep going
on the couch.
Yeah.
I'm excited for the next chapter. The next chapter is a fun one.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us today, folks. We hope you got something from this, and we hope you come back for